Hello, this is Shruti Kaushan, and you're watching APNLive.com. People often say that Bollywood can't do horror, but filmmaker Vikram Bhatt has redefined the genre. From Ras to 1920 to ATHWAY, Vikram Bhatt created magic on the screen with his imagination. He's reuniting with Mahesh Bhatt after almost 2 decades for Judda Hoke Bhi, which stars Akshay Oberoi and Aindrita. Joining us today is Vikram Bhatt. So you are reuniting with Mahesh Bhatt after so long for Judda Hoke Bhi. How does that feel?
So actually what happened is that I used to work for my boss's company for the longest time. And then when I started on my own, one fine day after Sadak 2 and after he left Vishesh Films and parted with Mukesh Bhatt, he called me up and he said, what the hell are you doing and how are you doing everything alone? I said, boss, I don't have a Mahesh Bhatt like Mukesh Bhatt. So he said, of course you have Mahesh Bhatt. And he walked in and became the fountainhead of my company.
Mm-hmm. So Judda Hoke Bhi is inspired by modern age Ramayana, and you know how giving Ramayana a new perspective came through, and especially when social media is so vocal about religion, and it takes no time to troll someone, especially a film, for hurting religious sentiments. So how it came through?
It's about a husband
Mm-hmm.
who's an alcoholic and his wife who is the breadwinner of the family, because he once was a very, very good musician and a composer and a singer, but he's gone into alcohol. And the wife has to leave and go to the mountains to write the autobiography of the villain, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's ghostwriting it. And what she doesn't know is that the villain is demonic and a tantric and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And how she gets trapped there and the husband goes and brings her back. It's a very, very elemental story. And actually the thing is that, you know, when I started working with Bhatt Sahab, he said, you know, Vikram, up until now you've been making ghost stories and horror films with love in it. This time, let's make a love story with horror in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the title Judda Hoke Bhi and not Atma or Amavas or Kabrastan or Darwaza or something like that. Because the need here is to make a film which is basically a love story, elemental love story. And the horror in the story actually is the helplessness of a person whose spouse is completely in the control of another man through black magic or whatever. She's entranced. And how does a common guy actually, win her back or get her back? It's a very scary situation.
Yeah.
And that is the horror. Now imagine this, that, you know, if your loved one or if your husband or boyfriend or whatever the case is, loves you very much, you know, but is completely in control of another woman through black magic. It's a scary situation. And that is the kind of fear that Judda Hoke Bhi is promising.
So now there's a lot of content for the audience to consume as OTT platforms are very popular. So there has been a shift in the type of content the audience watch. So do you think horror will survive in Bollywood?
Actually, horror will survive more now than before, because we have gone back to the masses. It's very clear that after the pandemic, there has been a radical shift, and very basic films are doing well. You know, the days of making films for, the overseas market and not for the Indian market are kind of done. You won't see them so much. There has been, a shift. And fortunately for us, it's the masses that have always liked the Indian kind of horror film. The multiplexes, on the other hand, have always said, "आप Conjuring जैसा क्यों नहीं बनाते? आप, Annabelle जैसा कुछ बनाइए, Scream बनाइए." And I used to always say, "अरे यार, Conjuring तो बन रही है ना? आप Conjuring देखो, मैं Conjuring बनाऊंगा, उसका क्या फायदा है बताइए?" So similarly, Indian horror films actually is a different medium. We have songs, we have romance, and that is what the masses want. They want an emotional spine to the film, as opposed to Hollywood films, which are start to finish horror. So I think that this quantum change is going to only, help us and help horror films.
So you have directed multiple horror films and shows as well. And you have also touched other genres as well. You directed Avara Pagal Divana. How different it is to direct a horror film from other genres?
At the end of it, a story is a story is a story. And all stories require different tools. It's like painting. If you're painting a landscape, then you paint it differently. If you're painting a portrait, you paint it differently. If you're painting some still life, like, flowers and vases, you paint it differently. Similarly, comedy requires extremely good actors with comic timing. It requires, some brilliant dialogue writing and situations. At the same time, it doesn't need a lot of technique. You put two people in a frame and they're going to make you laugh. You don't need, background score and all that happening. A love story will require some good songs, a lead pair that, the audience can fall in love with. So these are the requirements. And in a horror film, the requirement basically is to be able to, make the audience feel fear. And horror film is one genre in which the director should be technically proficient, because you're going to use a lot of camera movements and background score and VFX, and it's heavy on those parts. But I mean, a director is a director. You should be able to direct all kinds of films.
So currently, filmmaker Leena Manimekalai is drawing flack on social media for her poster Kaali. So the poster depicts a woman dressed in a costume portraying the goddess and smoking, and also a flag of the LGBTQ community. So what happens with the director's artistic license with the social media policing?
I mean, if she wanted to draw attention to herself, she's managed. This conversation is proof of that. See, I believe in one thing, that I'm a very religious man, which is why I'm shouting out and saying this has got nothing to do with Ramayana. Similarly, I feel that, you should not hurt anyone's feelings. I pray to the goddess. You are showing her smoking. Creative license, yes, by all means. But if you're going to hurt people's feelings, they're going to hurt you back. So that license should be allowed both ways. You can't say, yes, what I condemn is violence, and I don't think violence is the way to do this. But if you're going to come out and hurt me, and if you're on Twitter or Instagram, on social media, I'm going to hurt you back. And why is that such a problem?
So, what do you have to say about the ongoing debate over South Indian films versus Bollywood?
Most of the Hollywood films that we've been watching are superhero films.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Avengers and this man and Batman and Aquaman and all kind of
Yeah.
men. And you know, Doctor Strange and this and that. I mean, every second film is a superhero film or a super villain film.
Right.
Or by that I mean Jurassic Park, which is the dinosaur, or this, that, whatever. These Oscar-winning films and films like that used to come to India, and now you don't see them. I've not seen any of those nuggets come to India.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice carefully, the same thing is happening to our films. We are also going for the superhero films.
Mm-hmm.
RRR is a superhero film. KGF is a superhero film. Pushpa is a superhero film. Which is why, because the masses have returned and masses like superheroes. So South has been making superhero films all along. We have been making different kinds of films. We used to make superhero films at one time. Amitabh Bachchan was a superhero. Dharmendra, Mithun, these were superheroes. Then we became very refined and we became very aesthetic. And our heroes used to have problems and our heroes didn't remain superheroes. So I think the debate should be superhero films versus not superhero films. This South and North films is a pointless debate because they have been making films that the masses like, and we've been making films for the classes.
Yeah.
And the classes have disappeared, and the South Indian industry is therefore doing better.
So, what do you have to say about the intense love that you have for the horror genre?
Actually, I have an intense love for the love story genre.
Okay.
And if you notice, the horror is always the villain in a love story in my films.
Yeah.
It is never, so people say they are horror stories, but they actually, to my mind, it's a love story. And that's why the songs of my films have always been good.
Yeah.
Because for me, they are love stories. That's why the title, as I said, Judda Hoke Bhi, it's a love story with horror in it. It's not a horror film per se.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining in.